different languages. More than 1 billion viewers each week. Now since day one,
MagMongoSlade.
one of the best yet.
Let's talk about Monday Night Raw, the Raw after the Rumble. I'm actually going to give Triple H some credit. One of the rare times I'm going to give Triple H a lot of credit. Not for the show, because the show was but some really strong segments. And that's been a consistent piece, especially of Raw in the Triple H era, is that segments have been very, very strong. Now, I know that the Bella Twins said something really online. They got a lot of people upset. And we're going to talk about that, but we're going to talk about that in a different video. So the Bella Twins and their response to John Laurinaitis being involved with the Vince McMahon lawsuit will be in a different video. That will not be in the news and notes segment here. Instead, we will be discussing CM Punk's injury. If CM Punk comes out fragile Phil, old Phillip, he comes out, he trots on out, looking older and older every time you see him. People was destroying CM Punk over the weekend. Boy, oh boy, talking about his Royal Rumble performance and how terrible it was. Oh my goodness. Before we even get into the his comments about the Royal Rumble, let's talk about this Cage Side Seats article that says in plain English, CM Punk looked like a tired old man or something. And this is one of the paragraphs. It says, I've spoken to a handful of friends and family about what they thought of Punk's performance. And they all said the same thing. He looked like a tired old man. Punk was breathing heavy during the Rumble match and moving in slow motion at times. Didn't really exactly inspire confidence in the idea that he's the best in the world and prepared to headline the most important wrestling event of the year. As it turns out, old Fragile Phil was injured. And that's why he was moving so slow. He was being tentative because he was already injured. Oh, brother. And I don't want to give Punk any excuses. I mean, he's still Fragile Phil. I mean, the guy gets hurt in his first match back. Jesus, this has happened to him so many times since he came back. Anyway, Fragile Phil comes out there, says he hopes Cody finishes the story. Cody's still his friend. Says he came close, but close doesn't count towards tricep in the Rumble. Still wanted to main event WrestleMania, but it's not in the cards. Talked about his childhood dream was to main event WrestleMania, and now he realizes that it may never happen. Then he goes off on a small tangent about his friend who has cancer, and how his friend's always in a good mood. So compared to cancer or being a firefighter or going out and helping and doing things like community service or whatever, this is just a flesh wound. The real best in the world are the people who go out and combat cancer and fight fighters and all this sort of stuff, all these heroes. He says he's not the best in the world because he always wins. He says that he noted his UFC career at that point. He says he's the best in the world because he faces his fears. He says that fighting in the UFC scared him more than anything. Main eventing WrestleMania scares him, and it may never happen, but he still wants to do it. And he said, but the real best in the world are the people who fight cancer, who help others. And he said he doesn't focus on the negatives. The people who talk about his tattoos, his body, he doesn't focus on that. And he was really on a roll here. I was not inspired, but I was like, yeah, he's got the people. The people was going along with him. He started talking about his friend with cancer. He choked up. They were choking up too. They were like, oh man, I feel for you. I understand. And I like how he talked about this being, a destroyed dream. Like this was his one shot to main event WrestleMania. And he got injured. And now he cannot make it. It's just not going to work. And while people feel bad for him because he didn't get to live his dream, he's saying there's people out there who's got it worse, which is putting things in its proper perspective. Saying, don't feel bad for me. I'm just an entertainer and I love doing this. But this is, one thing. It's a tricep tear. I'll get better. I'll be back. There's always next year. Drew McIntyre comes out and lays on probably the best Drew McIntyre promo I've ever heard. And the one line that probably is going to define his entire career. So Drew McIntyre comes out, says he can relate to a lot of what CM Punk talked about, including a friend with cancer. He says he had his dreams crushed too. And then he says that I'm not a spiritual man, but I prayed for this, and then it happened. And the crowd just, the boos were absolutely incredible. The full heel turn of Drew McIntyre has been tremendous. So then he says that he did this because he couldn't let CM Punk be the guy who takes the championship, who main events WrestleMania, who takes this belt to the next level. He could not let that happen. And he was mad at himself for getting eliminated by CM Punk, but then he heard that CM Punk was injured and he slept like a baby. And I was just like, oof, this is top shelf hate. This is the creme de la creme of hate. This is a hate filet mignon. You know what I'm saying? This is like hate oysters. You know, this is a hate creme brulee. This is the hibachi of haters. This guy's a hating. He's a hating motherfucker, man. Jesus Christ. So he says that now he's going to win the Elimination Chamber or whatever and live CM Punk's dream again. CM Punk got into Drew McIntyre's face and says that he may not make it to WrestleMania, but he will main event it. He will win the World Championship. But when he comes back, the first thing he's going to do is he's going to deal with Drew McIntyre. And so this led to a fight scene between the two of them, in which Drew McIntyre stomped the tricep of CM Punk. And Sami Zayn comes out there to try to help him. No dice. Even though Drew McIntyre did get bumped out of the ring and fled. You know, even though he's a giant. He's a literal human giant. He's running from flabby Sami Zayn, but whatever. We just rolled with the cards we dealt. So, excellent segment. Fantastic segment. I questioned if it was, hey, we're going to turn this promo into that sort of deal, but it worked. It really got Drew over. And that's what I mean by the strength of these segments that they've been doing on Raw, especially. They've been giving them a lot of time to, stars on TV doing segments. They're talking a lot, but they're engaged, and the dialogue is good and well delivered. And this was really good. This was a really good promo. Punk's part was really good. Drew's part was just as good, if not better. This led to the match between Drew McIntyre and Sami Zayn in the main event. They had promos in between them, but who really cares, really? There was nothing said in there except for Drew McIntyre saying that Sami Zayn has never beaten him. And that Sami Zayn saying that Drew McIntyre took, weeks off of his career, being the guy who injured him in that match. And then he's the guy who also eliminated him out of the Royal Rumble, so he wanted some revenge. He failed. Sami Zayn lost to Drew McIntyre, as he should. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. Unfortunately, this is one of those wins that don't do much of anything for anybody, because Sami Zayn just came back, so he probably should have not gone over, but at least been kept strong. I'm wondering what they're doing with Drew. That's the question. There's this conversation that Drew still has not re-signed a contract. Some people are questioning whether he even will re-sign, and that maybe he's going to jump ship. I think he's going to. I think he's going to re-sign, but they're still dealing with a bunch of other things right now. They've got plenty of money. That's not the issue. I would imagine something else is the issue. But they're really working it out when it comes to creative, because his heel turn has been very natural, and it's been well documented what his problem is. And now he's just jealous. It's just, we've gone from, him being sort of a babyface who has a right to complain to, damn, he don't want to see anybody else win. Like, it's not even a matter of I'm mad that I lost. It's I'm happy you lost. I'm happy you're injured. Like that's some bullshit right there. So I'm really enjoying Drew McIntyre. I'm wondering if CM Punk will continue to make dates even though he's injured. Like, will he continue to show up and cut promos, or was this their way of writing him off TV so he can't make it? But I don't know. They did have him walk out under his own power, so it's not like they stretchered him out. Before we move on from the CM Punk situation, however, David Bixenspan said some quite interesting things on the Twitter machine. What did he say? Well, he alluded to CM Punk using steroids. Yes, sirree. He sure did. So, he said, and I quote, I honestly have no idea if Punk would ever change his mind about using steroids. But if he had, particularly during the broken foot recovery, it would explain a lot about why his temper suddenly got so much worse. It's always been there, but it was never kill you bad before. Somebody responded, that would seem to be a massive betrayal of Punk's straight edge ethos, wouldn't it? And Bixenspan says, I don't know. We know by his late WWE run, he was realizing that his attempts to recover from injuries without painkillers was a terrible idea. One would think he had to have painkillers after his back surgery regardless. Would he change his mind on steroids too? I don't know. Oh my goodness. Oh, now, he's not the only one saying this. There's another guy who's kind of a Bixenspan acolyte, I guess you could say, who is running about saying that tricep tears are steroid-related injuries. Because you can't tear your triceps unless you're on steroids, apparently. It only happens to people who take steroids. This is a new low, Now, I haven't heard about, the whole CM Punk straight edge. I don't know how, how true it is. People say and do different things. I mean, it is what it is. But to, with no evidence whatsoever, just jump out the window and say, maybe he's on steroids. He's always had a temper, but geez, he never was like beating people up backstage. It's like, who did he try to kill? That's what I'm trying to figure out. I know that the story is that, Tony Khan feared for his life, but we don't know like what the context is of that. But now these tweets were recent. These were on the 29th of 2020 of January. So it's not like these were, 6-month-old tweets. This guy literally just said, hey, what about it? I'm like, what? It's amazing what happens when people go to WWE. That's all it takes. It is all of a sudden he's on steroids. And this pocket, let's be fair, this pocket of Twitter is basically thinking that CM Punk is on steroids. And it's changing his temper. He's got roid rage. Like, what on earth? Oh my God. And if he took steroids and he still looks like that, that's a walking billboard to never take steroids. If you take steroids and you still look like CM Punk, oh my God. You still walk around like that? I don't know. Look, talk about a billboard to never use steroids. Kids don't do drugs. You could take performance enhancing drugs and not performance enhanced. I don't. Anyway, that's a very small cubby hole of Twitter, but Jesus, what a sight. I did not expect to see that right before Monday Night Raw upon hearing that CM Punk was injured. Now, I would imagine he probably did have to take some kind of medications. I would imagine he did, because he has had numerous injuries and numerous, and that stuff would drive you nuts. Being in constant pain, not being able to, function without pain. I know, I get it. And it kind of stands to reason that you will eventually walk that back. But to skip from, I'm going to take, medications after I have back surgery or foot surgery or whatever, to I'm just going to take steroids, brother. I don't know about that. That's a bit of a leap. All right. Maybe we need to find some evidence before we do that. And no, a tricep tear is not evidence that you're on steroids. That's not the case. This belief comes from Dave Meltzer, who I believe has been saying that tricep tears are a symptom of steroid usage. And if you Google it, then yes, that's the case. But it does not mean that just because you torn your triceps or some other ligament that you are on steroids. It's just saying that it happens more often in people who use steroids. Now, CM Punk, let's say if CM Punk is if he's in the Brock Lesnar category of WWE superstar who probably doesn't get drug tested. Maybe they don't feel like they need to drug test him, you know. But let's say that he is, then he might be able to get away with doing steroids because we know Brock for a long time got away with it because WWE doesn't test him, mainly because they didn't want to find out whether he was, and I believe it was in his contract that they can't test him for it, or they do not. So it's possible, and I guess I should you could posit the idea, but I don't remember anybody ever saying that CM Punk was on steroids when he was in AEW and he was tearing up every part of his body. Nobody ever said he was on steroids then. Now, I just say the guy's fragile. I think fragile Phil fits. He's getting older, you know. He's working out a lot more. He came across a little bit bigger, still kind of flabby, never cut. But to think that he's taking steroids, man, I don't know. That's a bit of a deep cut right there. Maybe we ought to hold off on that one. Maybe we ought to think of that one through. Maybe we ought to think about that, ponder that a little bit. You know, I guess it's okay to interject the idea because it is provocative. But to think that he's just walking around raging out trying to kill people, I don't know. I don't know about that one either. Okay, next we had Judgment Day. Rhea Ripley is not concerned with Bayley, but she wants to send a message to the locker room that Judgment Day is not for games. So Damian Priest says he's done with distractions and that Finn Balor will show his viciousness. This leads to the first match on the show, the DIY versus Judgment Day Tag Team Championship match. For the first time, DIY actually got over. They were wrestling in the ring, doing all sorts of things, and crowd actually started chanting for them. I know they're in what city were they in? It was in Florida, right? Not far from the Performance Center where these guys made their name in WWE. I know people are going to be like, but Tommaso Ciampa was in Ring of Honor all this time. Shut up. Nobody asked you about that. Nobody asked you about the 15 years Johnny Gargano was in PWG. Nobody cares about that. Nobody knows about that. Except dummies like you and me. Anyway, Judgment Day wins, as they should. DIY had no business being the champions. JD McDonough, Dominic Mysterio, they come out to celebrate. Damian Priest gets on the microphone, says that they owe R-Truth an apology. You know, he's the guy who made all this happen, I guess. R-Truth comes out, he's kind of tepid, but Damian Priest promised that he wasn't going to hit him, wasn't going to do anything to him. He started saying how Judgment Day is a family. R-Truth agreed, and then talked about all the financial decisions he made on behalf of Damian Priest, that he filed his taxes and liquidated his assets and a bunch of other stuff. Damian Priest, instead of freaking out because he might have lost assets, was kind of like, you don't even know what that stuff means, which was even funnier if we're being honest. Then he says, okay, yeah, Judgment Day is a family, but just you're not in it. And of course the crowd booed. And then he says, look, I like you. I think that you're funny. So I'm not going to be the one to do this. And then he gets jumped by Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough. This leads to The Miz coming out to save him, which is, okay, fine. I just don't understand our new obsession with our awesome truth. Like, this is a, 13-year-old gimmick? they haven't been tag team partners in 12 years. You know, like, they haven't been tag team partners in over a decade. All right, I guess Triple H has nothing else to do. So, but then again, you know, it's a good thing because these two characters have history. So R-Truth is officially not involved with Judgment Day. He got beat up. And this led to the Rhea Ripley segment later on, which I guess we'll talk about it when we get there. R-Truth being kicked out of Judgment Day so quickly. I don't know. I don't know if it was the right thing to do it so quickly. I understand that, you know, you want to minimize to a degree the comparisons between that and Sami Zayn with the Bloodline, but they kicked him out kind of quick, you know, pretty quick. Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark defeated Piper Niven and Chelsea Green. The only thing about this is Chelsea Green got her Chelsea Green announcement back. Otherwise, this was pointless television. It really existed for no reason. All right, your boy, the politician himself, Cody Rhodes. Cody comes out there, but first, before we get into the Cody Rhodes promo, I want to take a side note. Vince Russo said something that was actually pretty interesting. He talked about the press conference, and he says that, quote, and speaking of this press conference, bro, 1 minute you have Cody Rhodes, bro, talking about this fictitious story, bro, of everybody he beat, bro, on his way to finishing the story. The next minute, we turn to the real world and the VKM scandal, bro. What are we doing here? This is the most bizarre thing I think I have ever seen. Freaking ridiculous, bro. And you know what? He's not wrong. In this instance, he's not wrong. And I don't understand that about these press conferences, is how part of it is in kayfabe and part of it is real. You know, like I don't get any of that. That's a really good point. How about if we do these things, they should be 100% kayfabe? Or if you do these things, they should be 100% let's talk about real stuff. But I guess you can't really do that, can you? Because if you talk about real stuff, then nobody really won or really lost, you know, because it was all agreed upon beforehand. But if you're going to talk about real world things, then why even invoke kayfabe? You know, so there's a lot of things to question there, like this melding and going back and forth between kayfabe and reality. But the stark difference of it is, I think, what brings a lot of attention to it. And the wrestling media have been going at each other's throats about this, these scrums and what kind of questions people should ask. And you know, maybe I'll discuss all that in a different video as well. But ultimately, Vince Russo made a really good point. And that point being, you know, is this about real stuff or is this about kayfabe stuff? You know, you got to make up your mind. And trying to mix the two things, it's never going to work. But Cody Rhodes comes out there to talk. And he's going to have a really good promo segment here. So he talks about escapism. You know, it's their job as entertainers to help us, the audience, escape. But sometimes they need to escape too. And he says that he needed the people. You know, the people, he needed them. He starts getting all teary-eyed when Seth Rollins comes out there because, you know, everybody has the idea that Cody Rhodes was going to challenge Roman Reigns. And so Seth Rollins has that idea too. He comes out, puts over Cody a little bit, says their history, they have mutual respect, but thinks it's a mistake to challenge Roman Reigns. Saying that Roman Reigns is not the guy, you're not the guy, Cody, I'm the guy. The World Heavyweight Championship is the title in the WWE. The landscape has changed. We don't need to pretend that Roman's any good anymore. We don't have to pretend that Roman is the main event. We don't have to pretend Roman is a god anymore. We have something else. We can do better. This is a title for us, by us. We've leveled the playing field. We don't need Roman Reigns at all. Then he starts laying it on even thicker. What do you want? The Hollywood title? You want the Hulk Hogan title? You want the guy, the poser title, the fraud title, or do you want the Dusty Rhodes title, the blue collar championship? the workhorse title. And at that, when he said workhorse, I was like, is he going to challenge Gunther? Yeah, because that's the workhorse belt. You can't have too many workhorse belts. You can't have two of them. And then he says he doesn't need an answer right now, but he wants Cody to think about it. And then Cody actually agrees to think about it after Seth Rollins laid his case out. And let me tell you, as much as I respect everything that Seth Rollins said, it is all horseshit. It is all 100% horseshit. You can tell it's February horseshit because Cody pointed at Roman at WrestleMania. He started this entire story by saying he wants to take his father the belt he never won. The version of that belt is the one Roman Reigns has, not the one Seth Rollins has. Now, Seth Rollins did say it's not about Dusty. It's never been about Dusty. It's about you. Meaning you have the opportunity to do something different. Maybe not that championship, but this one. And I can appreciate that. But Roman Reigns has been champion for 3 years. Trying to pretend that he doesn't exist anymore, trying to pretend that he doesn't matter anymore, trying to downplay him. It's well within the Seth Rollins character. This is about ego, and I like that because it kind of goes with the history of, winning the Royal Rumble and that sort of stuff is when you get to pick the champion, the champion that gets picked gets to main event WrestleMania, theoretically. And that's how it should work, but it doesn't always work that way. And that person wants to be put on a higher pedestal. And he's saying, I've created this pedestal that, we can do this thing ourselves. We don't have to go through Roman. But Cody made a promise. Cody made a promise to his old man. He's going to lay that championship in his hands. And he can't back down on it because that's part of the reason everybody's so emotionally invested in this story. But this was the position that Rollins was in. He was the NWA champion, the AWA champion. The guys who think WWF was always Hollywood. Like, you don't want the Hulk Hogan belt. You don't want that thing. It's a toy. It doesn't mean anything. This is for the real wrestlers. That kind of thing has been going on forever. The Ring of Honor Championship, the TNA belt. Oh, you got to be Hollywood movie star to be WWE champion. Who wants to be that? That's not cool. Making millions of dollars and being on television. That's not cool. So, I'm just saying. He made the case. And Cody was sitting there with his sad face. He had the puppy dog eyes. It was entertaining. Seth Rollins is also wearing a blouse or something. I don't understand what's going on with this guy. In any event, I think this was a really good segment. Unfortunately, you can shove all of this up your ass and it's all just February fluff. There's no way Cody Rhodes makes the decision to challenge Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. That's just dumb. All right, it's not real. It's not a thing that's going to occur. No, I don't believe that they're even for 1 second considering it. They're just doing this to buy time because they want everybody to be conflicted and they want you to go through the conflict. And Roman's not going to be on TV as usual. So somebody's got to be able to carry the load in terms of working with Cody. And Seth Rollins could be the guy. And I know they're gonna try to get through this week, and then they're gonna get through next week, and then Cody will probably make his decision. But we already know it's gonna be Roman Reigns, and it should be. Cody was very close to beating Roman Reigns, and living his dream and doing all that stuff. But I'm very interested right now in how Cody's response will be. How is Cody going to respond to the denigration of the WWE Championship as the Hogan belt, the Hollywood belt, the belt for posers and politicians and frauds? It's like, yeah, but that's Seth Rollins, being, egotistical and trying to denigrate that championship so that his looks good and to, having low self-esteem about his belt, which is, Very unfortunate, but Seth Rollins is one of the many silver medalists running around there. But it was very well done anyway. Jey Uso defeated Bronson Reed. We don't need to go into that because who cares? Andrade Alidolo. I'm sorry, it's just Andrade now. I thought they was going to go back to Andrade Almas, but no, it's just Andrade. They did a vignette for him, put him over strong. Then the next thing you see is he's signing to Monday Night Raw before Nick Aldis even had a chance to speak to him. And Nick Aldis is kind of pissy about it. Him and Adam Pearce have a tete-a-tete in which they take shots at each other. Nick Aldis' phone rings and it's Brian Breaker, and he's like, maybe I lost Andrade, but Brian Breaker is calling me. And then Andrade says to Nick Aldis before he leaves that he want say hi to Zelina Vega for me. So that's an interesting bit, as that they may try to get Zelina on Raw with Andrade, but then who do you replace her with in the LWO? Do you have another? Well, I was about to say, do you have another Hispanic female wrestler? But you do. You have a couple. You have Bailey. You have Lola Vice. I think you probably have some more NXT talents. But in terms of Zelina and Andrade working together, everybody liked that pairing. I don't know why. And then Charlotte, when she comes back, she's going to be on SmackDown, right? So why would he? I guess it's going to be a while before Charlotte comes back so he can work on Raw. I think that for Andrade, he should be your guy against Gunther at WrestleMania. I know a lot of people thought, it should be Brock Lesnar. They're probably not working with Brock nowadays. If it's not going to be Brian Breaker wrestling Gunther at WrestleMania, then let Andrade do it. But Andrade should be doing something important. He didn't come back to this company just to go right back to being in the mid-card, win one, lose one, win one, lose one. I mean, that sucks. That's stupid. We would imagine that he came back to be a top guy. All right, so Kofi says that winning championships is what the New Day has always been about. It ain't about bootios, twerking, and unicorns. But they did a lot of bootios, twerking, and unicorns. I wish they would stop. I wish New Day could go away. God. He just dropped the gimmick, for Christ's sake. Gunther cut a promo and said that Kofi is fighting for his name. He's fighting for his legacy. He's fighting for everything that he's ever done. While Gunther is making history. And says when he's done beating up on Kofi Kingston, nobody's going to remember his name. But he gives him credit for challenging him. They have the match, and it was really good, as usual, when it comes to Gunther. But Kofi is actually no slouch himself. Kofi is a really good role player, and he worked his ass off in this match. He did a really good job. He did a top rope boom drop, which I was like, I thought that was it, if we're being honest. I don't know why I thought that was over, but I thought it was over. Gunther nails 2 lariats and a powerbomb to get the win. Good match, really good match. Gunther in an interview says that he doesn't like having a finisher. He says that it's an old wrestling cliche. He wants to do what works or what suits the story, which is sensible, I guess. But it's hard to build to the finish if people don't recognize it. Like, you have to at least establish a finish so that when something else occurs, is kind of a surprise. Like when Bret Hart used to beat people with like victory rolls or small packages. We know that that's not his finisher. It's not his best move. So Gunther is trying to do that King's Road shit where I'm just going to stack things on top of each other. So 2 lariats and a powerbomb. It's like a combo finish. And that works, I think, in the indies, but I'm not so sure it works that well in WWE. But we'll see. We'll see how it works. I really am quite agitated when I see wrestlers denigrating things that, have universal value in wrestling, as it's an old cliche. We can do without that. And it's like baby faces and heels and finishers. Like what? What next? You like, we don't need that old fashioned ring gimmick. We're moving beyond the ring. We're going to wrestle on floor mats. Oh, brother. But the match was good. Gunther is using the powerbomb mostly as a finish, but he doesn't call it his finisher. It's just what he uses to win more often than not. All right, Becky Lynch cut a promo. She said she let a lot of people down, but she only lets herself down if she gives up, and she's never going to give up. She's going to train a little harder, fight a little dirtier, but she will not stop until she takes that championship back to the main event where it should be. And Becky Lynch should have won the Royal Rumble. I maintain that should have occurred. I know people are going to disagree with me, but she has nothing now except for the Elimination Chamber. So because Becky Lynch didn't win the Royal Rumble and Bayley did, Bayley is out there to cut the promo. She's talking about all of history is because of her. The tag team champions, the women's Royal Rumble winner, the women's world champion, all in the same ring at the same time. And said that everybody doubted her, thought that this thing would be a flop, but she saw the bigger picture. Say, I wasn't even on the poster of the Royal Rumble, but I won it. Which says a lot about what I said before about Bayley being a role player, is that they didn't think enough of her to even put her on the poster. Like there's 40 people on the goddamn poster, and Bayley's not on there. And she's been in this company over a decade. I remember seeing that she was kind of offended that she wasn't on there, but she didn't make like a huge deal out of it. Again, she's a role player. She understands that she's not, the most marketable character. But Bayley comes out there. She was healing it up, really putting over herself, putting over Damage Control, mostly herself, saying this whole thing is her idea. Rhea Ripley interrupts and says that Bayley is the only member of Damage Control with no gold, and if she challenges her for WrestleMania, it will stay that way. When she is attacked from behind by Nia Jax and gets completely ruined with like 3 leg drops and a Annihilator, aka a Banzai drop. So Nia Jax turns her attention to Bayley. Bayley curls up in the corner. Damage Control leaves the ring, leaves Bayley by herself. Nia Jax says that Rhea Ripley ain't making it to WrestleMania. And then Bayley says she will make her decision on Friday. So Bayley gets punked out in her segment by Nia Jax. And I don't understand why that had to be, but that's the direction they chose to go in. So it's an interesting bit, I suppose. They're building up Nia Jax to be the opponent for Elimination Chamber, which is good. Good. I definitely think that the Rhea Ripley Nia Jax match is not going to be a great match by any stretch of the imagination. But in terms of, David versus Goliath, that ought to be fun. In terms of, Rhea Ripley's going to be in her hometown and she gets to work with the biggest heel in the division, both literally and figuratively in terms of her work. She's the biggest heel. The issue here I have is that we're still creeping along with Damage Control, where Bayley's still trying to be a heel, even though she won the match clean. She's still trying to be a heel and calling the fans idiots and losers, and she's yelling at Michael Cole. It's like, yeah, I get it, but we probably should lean more towards you being a genuine baby face now. But I guess we got plenty of time. Okie dokie. So, all in all, Raw was actually pretty good. The Tag Team Championship match, the Intercontinental Championship match, both of those were pretty good. The main event was pretty solid too. Two great segments with Punk and McIntyre and Rhodes and Rollins, and that was very good. I think if this show was 2 hours, this show would probably have a lot more attention. So it was very good. Now, WG Phil, I think it was, asked me, do I think that CM Punk's injury is a work? And the belief that he might wrestle with the torn tricep, and I don't think he's going to do that. He's already said he's not going to do anything like that again because he works hurt all this, sometimes, and I don't think he'll do it this time. Now, the fact that it might be a work as a way to explain why he's not going to main event this year is interesting, is intriguing, but I'm not sure. I don't think he's gonna work that kind of injury. If they do manage to do that and turn it around and Punk can wrestle at WrestleMania, that would be a great swerve. I'm never gonna be mad at him for doing what they're supposed to do, and that is creating a world in which I believe things that are not real to be real. So if the injury is not real, I'm okay with, getting duped on that in that regard. But what do you guys think about Monday Night Raw? Let me know in the comment section below, and I'll talk to you guys later.